baby. I'm excited for all of the topics for today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Next, joining us from Toronto, we have Albert. Albert, say.
How's it going, Mike? Basketball is literally right around the corner. I can't wait. It's that time of the year. Baseball playoffs is happening. It's all happening at once. Let's do this.
Let's get it, baby. Let's get it. And last but not least, finally, from Toronto, we have our very own Adian Pangalina.
Hey, what's going on, Mike? I'm happy to talk sports. This is the best time of the year for sports. We got all 5 of the major sports going on: hockey, baseball, football, basketball. I mean, what else do you need?
Man, I love it. And just to let you guys know, we're going to be touching every one of those topics tonight. So excited and ready to go. And thanks for joining us again this week, everybody. And to our viewers, remember, we're not the greatest of sports experts, but we are huge fans of the world of sports and just having the time of our lives discussing this. But before we go into our main topics tonight, we have some updates to share with you from all over the sports world. First, Albert has a baseball playoff update for all of us. Take it away, Albert.
Yeah, Mike, the MLB's Division Series playoff games wrapped up with the Boston Red Sox clinching first as in their ALDS matchup over the Rays in a Game 4 walk-off sacrifice fly at Fenway Park. There they will meet the Houston Astros, who are currently playing in their American League Championship Series after the Astros defeated the White Sox in 3 games to 1. The ALCS will feature 2 of the best offenses of baseball, as these 2 teams will match up for the 3rd time in the past 5 postseasons. One big question going into the series is Astros ace Lance McCullers Jr., who is currently dealing with an injury after his Game 4 injury against the White Sox. Now, in the other league, the defending World Series champs, the LA Dodgers, concluded their nail-biting 5-game series in a winner-take-all game against their NL West rivals, the San Francisco Giants. The Dodgers actually used reliever Corey Knebel as their opener before turning the ball over to their actual starter, Julio Urias. The Giants countered with a gem from Logan Webb, who pitched 7 innings and only allowed 1 run. The game was an instant classic, with both 100-win teams meeting for the final time to decide who will move on in the playoffs. In the end, it was actually the starter, Max Scherzer, who shut down the door, who came in the 9th inning to close out the game in a very controversial check swing strikeout call from the first base umpire. The Dodgers will go up against the Atlanta Braves in a rematch of last year's NLCS after the Braves took care of the Brewers in 4 games. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Albert. Appreciate it. So next, Brian's going to share with us an update from his Las Vegas Raiders. Brian, what do you have for us?
Sure thing, Mike. Las Vegas Raiders head coach John Gruden resigns on October 11th, 2021, after racist, homophobic, and misogynistic emails were revealed from a league investigation into the Washington football team for workplace misconduct. 3 days after the news was made public, former head coach John Gruden said in a statement obtained by NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport, "I have resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you to all the players, coaches, staff, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt anyone." Gruden was found to have made racist remarks, and Las Vegas Raiders owner Mark Davis made a statement on Gruden's resignation. As quoted, "I have accepted John Gruden's resignation as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders," as he said so shortly. John Gruden resigned from the team after just 5 games into the season, with longtime coach and special teams coordinator Rich Bisaccia filling in as the interim head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks, B. And also we have a story from Adian. He has a couple of updates for us from the NBA. Adian, what's going on?
Yes, sir. The latest from the NBA comes from 2 Eastern Conference contenders, the Brooklyn Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers. First, in Brooklyn, the team announced that Kyrie Irving will not play or practice with the team until he is eligible to be a full participant. With the current mandate of the New York State, any unvaccinated player is ineligible to play home games. While Irving would still technically be able to play away games, the decision made by the team was that Kyrie Irving will not be a part-time participant. Afterwards, Kyrie Irving shed light on the ongoing situation over Instagram Live, insisting that he respects the decisions of those who have received the vaccine and that he does not want fans to believe he is retiring from the sport. Does that mean he will ever get the vaccine? Only time will tell. And in Philadelphia, Ben Simmons shocked the world on Monday. Simmons showed up to team facilities to receive his COVID testing and clearance for health and safety protocols. Now, what does that mean? Well, all the drama cannot be ignored of this past offseason. It was a roller coaster, and that's to put it lightly. Ben Simmons' camp and the Sixers brass went back and forth all offseason. After the upset loss to the Atlanta Hawks in the conference semis, he received the lion's share of the blame for why the team fell short. And after that, things just turned even uglier. Ben Simmons reportedly cut off all communications with all front office and teammates and requested a change of scenery. And now, after not showing up for training camp and a handful of preseason games, he shows up to the facility. Although he's eligible to play in the preseason finale, he did not travel with the team. The team is hoping to have him return in the season opener against the New Orleans Pelicans. Guys, the plot thickens once again. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Adrian. Appreciate it. And we're going to go back to Brian. He actually has a special report as he's part of the Las Vegas Bureau, where they covered the NHL opening night where the Las Vegas Knights took on the Seattle Kraken. Let's take a look.
One of the most highly anticipated games in the NHL delivered with the Vegas Golden Knights defeating the newly released Seattle Kraken. The Vegas Golden Knights defeated the Kraken 4-3 in a game of expansion teams that made history tonight. Here's a closer look of the game.
The newest NHL franchise, Seattle Kraken, came close to upsetting the Vegas Golden Knights in their home arena, losing only 3-4 in a battle of expansion teams. The Kraken were scoreless in the first period, but scored 2 unanswered goals before forward Chandler Stevenson scored for the Golden Knights to make it 4-3 and kept the lead for the rest of the game. Vegas Golden Knights coach Peter DeBoer had some thoughts on facing the Seattle Kraken for the first time.
Yeah, you always want the first goal, especially in your home building, get the crowd into it. You don't want to, had they scored on that first shift, that, it's a little deflating for the entire building. So, we had opportunities to really extend that lead and put that game away in the middle portion there, hit some crossbars, missed some chances to do that and let them hang around a little bit, but found a way to win.
The Kraken's franchise debut showed promise with players like veteran defenseman Mark Giordano, forward Yanni Gourde, who scored 17 goals last season, forward Jordan Eberle, and forward Mason Appleton, who has the highest upside in carrying the team's offensive load. The NHL approved the expansion team in December of 2018, and the team's name and branding were revealed as the Seattle Kraken with much positive review and anticipation. The Kraken already have a large following as seen by the crowds of fans who rocked icy blue and deep sea blue jerseys and even shook the arena when they scored their first goal in franchise history. History was made in the Fortress when the Vegas Golden Knights hosted the 31st team in the NHL.
That is all for tonight's season opener of the NHL. I'm Brian Sanson. We live in interesting times.
Awesome story, B. So that's it for this week's sports and news. After the break, we're going to dive right into our main topic, starting with NBA opening night. Stay right here. We'll be right back.
Makabuluhang talakayan.
Sapat na po ba yun? Papasok yung 30% sa indoor at 50% sa outdoor para to even break even?
Ilan pong mga negosyo ang nagsara po dahil dito po sa pandemya?
Malalim na komentaryo.
Ngayon, sinasabi essential goods and services. Pero nakita naman po natin sa Dolomite Beach. At may time clock yung mga bata doon.
Umaapaw sa impormasyon.
Ano ba ngayon ang allotted budget per voter?
Yung hindi daw bakunado po ng mga empleyado, hindi sila pinapasweldo. Oras!
Pero hindi rin nagpapahuli sa kakulitan.
Merong nag-file for the presidency. Hinimok daw siya ng mga alien at ang kanyang plataforma po ay palakasin ang Wi-Fi.
At ito si Ali magde-demonstrate paano mag-swimming na may face mask.
Kaya, nood na kina Ali Soto at Pati Daza sa ASPN. Ano sa palagay nyo?
Kung kayo po ay may pinagdadaanan, daanan nyo lang. Huwag niyong tambayan.
Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 10 ng umaga.
Oras, alas 9:26 na po ng umaga. At nagbabalik po ang ASPN.
Mapapanood sa Net25 at mapapakinggan sa DZEC, Radyo Aguila at Eagle FM 95.5.
Isa ang mga kooperatiba sa mga naapektuhan ng COVID-19 crisis. Sa isang survey ng Cooperative Development Authority, nangangamba ang mga kooperatiba sa pagbaba ng kanilang kita dahil sa mahirap na transportasyon at komunikasyon. And one of the most important questions is, how can they transition to digitalization? In this episode, we will discuss the journey of one cooperative that remained resilient during the pandemic. Ms. Faye Visa, General Manager of the Pantukan Chess Club Multipurpose Cooperative, and Mr. Bradley Pineda of Globe Business will share their insights.
When the pandemic has opened our eyes to the many possibilities that we can do with the power of the digital,
Globe Business vision to equip cooperatives with digital solutions so that they can become a kooperatibang matatag.
All these in this episode of Open for Business.
Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome back to EBC Sports International. Thanks for sticking with us. I'm Michael Hudson. So on Tuesday night, the NBA will be entering its inaugural 75th NBA season. Starting with the doubleheader on opening night, the Nets visiting the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks, and the Golden State Warriors led by Steph Curry going to the Staples Center to take on LBJ and the Los Angeles Lakers. Adian, we're starting with you, buddy. First, how excited are you for another NBA season? And secondly, which game are you looking forward to the most on this doubleheader?
Oh man, to answer your first question, it's truly exciting. I don't know if any of you have seen the promo for the 75th season in NBA Lane with all the old hoopers and all the current players, all the current stars. Beautiful commercial. We saw the portrait of Kobe Bryant and Devin Booker driving his car, looking over. That was beautiful. They're doing everything right this season. I'm looking forward to a matchup November 1st. It's going to be the Toronto Raptors and New York Knicks. 75 years ago on that date was the actual first game played by those two teams. Mind you, the Raptors were the Huskies at that time. But yeah, absolutely. This season is going to be a great one. A lot of young players to look forward to, and that's what I'm most excited about, to be honest. Now, to answer your question on opening night, we got two bangers, Nets versus Bucks and Warriors versus Lakers. If I'm going to have to watch one, it's going to be the Nets and the Bucks, because we just saw how close that series was in the Eastern Conference Finals. It was this close, literally this close, Kevin Durant's length of toe close. It was an amazing series, one that went to Game 7, one that I'm sure Kevin Durant's going to want to avenge, because that is kind of going to be a mark on his career, a stain on his career, because he didn't get past that. But man, he went toe-to-toe with the best in that series. And if this is a preview of what's to come all season long, but also in perhaps 2022, the Eastern Conference Finals once again, hopefully they have Kyrie Irving back. Hopefully. That's going to be great news for all of us.
Well, we're going to get deep into the Kyrie situation later in the show. But Brian, speaking of Kyrie Irving, it looks like Kyrie is more than likely going to be sitting out more than one game this season. So, how badly is this going to affect the Nets moving forward, especially in Game 1?
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, Mike, because I have no idea what's going on in Kyrie Irving's mind, and I don't think anyone on earth knows what's going on in his head. It's so funny because he thinks that he's the hero, which is kind of odd. And I don't want to get too political in things because this is not the right show for it. But man, it just makes you just scratch your head like, shoot, this guy is one of the most talented players to ever pick up a basketball. But at the same time, he is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, just to say it straight. But you know, with players like Kyrie Irving just doing this kind of thing to his team, you have to think that not only is it going to affect their championship hopes, but it's already doing it right now while it's planting the seed of, I guess you can say, a lack of leadership with someone like Kyrie Irving, and just miscommunication on the part of the team, where, you know, players are going to that team, veterans like Paul Millsap, for example. He's thinking like, oh man, I'm about to get this ring, but now Kyrie Irving just comes right into the mix and just kind of mixes things up a bit, makes things a little bit more interesting, where now the team is thinking, okay, we went from invulnerable, invincible, no one can beat us, to, okay, all right, now that we might not have Kyrie Irving on the team, we just might lose to a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, who have someone who is not only one of the best players that we have seen, but it's getting better and better every single year, which is kind of scary. I don't know if you guys seen that video, or if you've just caught up with preseason, but that Bucks Jazz game, I know it's preseason, but those series of jumpers that we saw from Giannis, sink right into the hoop. It makes you think,
night and day.
Oh snap!
Yeah,
man, is it going to be game over for the entire NBA? So you gotta really, if you're on the Nets right now, you gotta really think about a strategy on how you can get Kyrie Irving to just sit down and just get that vaccine, just like the rest of the world, and suit up and get a championship for Brooklyn. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes, because I can't tell you the answer to that, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, like, speaking of Giannis, yeah, I mean, to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, dude, seeing him shoot jumpers now is like night and day. He has so much confidence. Like, I don't know, tonight, like the first play of the game, he just pulls up for three, swishes it like it was nothing. Like, he doesn't have no hitch, no anything. It's just, man, it is incredible. And NBA has to look out. So Albert, I'm going to go to you. So the Lakers, they basically have four guaranteed Hall of Famers on their current roster, with LeBron, AD, Westbrook, and Carmelo Anthony. So how do you think they'll play together in the opening matchup against the Warriors?
Honestly, I think with everything, it's going to take time for all the different talents to sort of gel. And we've seen this with other, big three teams, where in the Miami Heat, they went off to a rough start, but of course, you know what, they eventually won those two championships. I see this playing out with the Lakers as well, too, especially with any team that's getting to know and getting to play with Russell Westbrook. Given the fact that, he is so ball dominant, and a lot of questions surrounding, how is it going to work with LeBron, who's also very ball dominant, bringing ball up the court. This was sort of even echoed with Steve Kerr in their preseason matchup, when he said they're going to be needing some time to adjust to each other's play style. And he knows it's going to look different by the end of the year. We have to keep in mind as well, too, that the Lakers are 0-6 in the preseason. So again, don't take too much stock into that. I think as well, too, with the veterans that they have, they know and understand that they are not going to be judged during the regular season, but more or less how they perform in the playoffs. So it's a matter of, let's get there, let's get a top 4 seed, home court advantage for the first round at least. And then just sort of by the time they get there, hopefully they'll be able to, get each other's play style. Also, too, on the Warriors side, they still don't have Klay Thompson, right? So again, you can't take too much into this first matchup of the season. It is going to be exciting nonetheless. But again, it's new players sort of getting to know each other, and then not a full strength Warriors going up against the Lakers as well.
Good points. So before we move on to our other NBA topic, I want to get some predictions from you guys. So we'll start with the Warriors-Lakers game. So Albert, what do you think the score is? Final score.
I see a nail biter coming down probably to the last shot. I'm going to go 110-109 Lakers.
Ooh, 110-109 Lakers. 80, and how about you, man?
Yeah, I got the Lakers winning that one. I feel like they're going to put up a lot of points, but also not play a lot of defense. And how do you stop Chef Curry? I feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go 134 to 122.
Wow.
Lakers.
Huge. And how about you, Brian?
I'm going to go the same route. It's going to be a high-scoring game, not a lot of defense. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a nail-biter, and it's going to be sent into OT, so it's going to be even higher than that. It's going to go 130 to 132. Lakers win it.
Wow, Lakers across the board. Well, I'm going to go against the grain and have the Warriors. I have Warriors 126, 120 with the upset, game one. And how about Brooklyn? We'll start with Brooklyn against the Bucks. Brian, how about you, man? What's your take on that?
Ooh, okay. All right, when you take into account all of these players, I mean, come on, look at the Nets. I mean, how are you going to stop that offense? There's no way you can. But how are the Nets going to stop the other team? They're just going to hope that they score more points than them. So I think it's going to be another high-scoring game. I'm going to say, especially as a season opener, I'm going to say 115 to 110 Bucks.
How about you, Adian?
Yeah, I think I see it the opposite way. We saw in the playoffs, they were slugging it out, and both teams were struggling to find offense. I don't see a lot of points being scored just because the defense is so good for both teams. I do see the Milwaukee Bucks pulling it out. How can you lose on ring ceremony night? Come on, you got to win. So I'm going to say 98-95 Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm not with you. I have the Nets. I have the Nets winning, but reverse score. And how about you, Albert?
I sort of agree with Adian, but I unfortunately have to remind him that our Raptors lost the ring ceremony game against the Pelicans. But I have Brooklyn winning 111-105. I don't see KD losing, especially after things ended off in the playoffs last year.
Gotcha. Well, hey, it's safe to say all of us are super excited, and we'll be sure to give you guys the updates as they come throughout the season. So in inauguration of the 75th season of the NBA, many news outlets, specifically the Sporting News, released their top 75 players in NBA history. And it's no surprise, Michael Jordan's number one and LeBron James is at number two. Brian, share with us some of your thoughts on that top 75 list that was just released.
Well, Mike, I'm just going to start with the top 10 because that's where the list gets the spiciest. Number one, I mean, I don't think anyone can argue with that. Number one and number two with his airness and LeBron. But with the other placements, it's a little bit interesting that we have players like Shaq at number 5. I mean, I can see why they placed him so high up as the fifth best player in NBA history, simply because of his dominance. But I mean, I know that this list was made from different analysts, and who am I to judge? But everyone has their own opinion. I would see Shaq going just a little bit lower down the list. I would like to see that, and then I'd have Magic just above Shaq, simply just off of accolades too, because at the very least, Magic is the greatest Laker of all time, and I would place him above Shaq simply off of his the number of championships that he has, that he won with the team that he had. So, I mean, I do like the list. But there's just a few nitpicks here and there, and obviously everyone has their own list. But I do like it. I'm not mad at it.
Gotcha. So we only have a couple minutes left, but Albert, how about you share your thoughts on the list? Was there anybody specifically you thought shouldn't have been on the list or should have been on the list?
I got a couple that should have definitely been on the list. So I got 4. I had to do a little bit of research as to where they were. I was looking for them. So Dennis Rodman wasn't on the top 75. Someone who, how can you not include such a guy who was such a big role in the Bulls dynasty with his 5 rings and, even with his defense? Another one, Yao Ming, Even though he never won on the biggest level, the biggest stage, but his impact on basketball and even on China, he was an 8-time All-Star. Surprisingly, Chris Bosh was not on that list either. Recently inducted Hall of Famer, 2-time champ, 11-time All-Star, and then also the fourth one that I didn't see on that 75 list was Manu Ginobili. Again, another huge piece in the Spurs dynasty, 4-time champ. Whoever made this list, they had to cut some players to get even some of these 4 that I mentioned in.
Man, oh man. Yeah, you're right. There's always going to be those snubs. And how about you, Adian? Same question. Anybody you thought should have been on the list or should have not been on the list?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. In the spirit of not coming off as a hater, I'm going to say I was surprised to see names like Vince Carter so high. Derrick Rose, who, while he was great in his 2-3 year season stretch, there's no way he's had a better career than, say, a Manu Ginobili or a Dennis Rodman. Pete Maravich is a guy who didn't have very many playoff wins, never won an NBA final, and he's above guys like Tony Parker. And my biggest surprise, Tim Duncan is not in the top 10. Come on now. He's not over Shaq. He's not over Kobe Bryant. He's got 5 rings. Come on, man.
What number was Tim at again?
Number 11. What's going on?
Oh, he's right on the cusp, He's right there.
No, it's not enough. If you're not a top 10, then that means something, right? The 10 is the big number here.
Yeah. Well, people. That's why different outlets come out with their different lists. So maybe the other list that come out, Tim, will be top 10. So we'll see. But hey, thanks for your takes, everybody. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going into the NFL scene after these messages. We'll be right back.
Karamihan sa ating mga Pilipino, mahilig talaga sa snacks, ano?
Kasi yun ang hinahanap ng bibig.
Pero yun lang ang pinakalibangan namin.
Aba meron nang nauuso na healthy version ng mga ito.
Kangkong to, gulay to, nagugustuhan rin kasi it's healthy for the children. Kung may Korean craze ngayon sa Pilipinas, may craze rin para sa banana chips natin doon sa Korea.
Unique siya kasi madami ding health benefits at pasok sa panlasa nating mga Pinoy.
Ito na ang inyong starter pack for a healthy snack. Ako po, si Robin Padilla, at ito po ang ulat. Kaagapay sa hanap buhay.
And tonight I play the stranger in the 4 walls of my room. In my window I am waiting, but I know it isn't soon. My arrogance is fading.
Hello, it's Pauline. Please catch me on Letters and Music on air and online this coming Saturday, October 23 from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. only here in Net 25. See ya!
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Aguila, the evening primetime news program of Net 25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Aguila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to Exchange, our health outdoor track.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Hey, welcome back, sports fans. This is EBC Sports International. So week 5 of the NFL season has commenced. I have to throw in a little side note. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady being named Offensive Player of the Week and winning last night. Thank you very much. So, Albert, I'm sad to say our guy, Russell Wilson, is probably going to be out 4 to 8 weeks with a torn tendon in his throwing hand. So do you think the backup, Geno Smith, is going to be able to lead the Hawks back to their winning ways starting this week?
I touched on this a little bit last week. They actually placed Wilson on the IL, so he's out till at least week 10, which is unfortunate. The stretch that Geno Smith actually came in, he looked competent. He was able to throw actually a touchdown to DK in the corner. He threw for 131 yards, going 10 for 17. But ultimately, in the end, he threw that pick and the game was over. So he did have a chance to win it. I think this week it will be a little bit different. Of course, teams, when they plan for their weak opponent, they plan for a specific quarterback. So, the Rams didn't plan for Geno Smith to come in. So the Steelers this week, they're definitely going to plan for Geno Smith. It's going to be a little bit tougher versus what he looked against the Rams. One thing to note is that Blake Bortles actually worked out for the Seahawks, so maybe coming in as a backup in case something happens. The issue with the Seahawks right now, though, is they are unable to play a whole game. And I know it's frustrating as a fellow Seahawk fan that, they come out blazing in the first half, but then they disappear in the second half. Or in the game against the 49ers, they were, floating in the first half. They went into the halftime tied 7-7. And then finally exploded in the second half and won that game. So it's tough to know what the identity of these Seahawks are. It's like every week we can never get a normal game from them. The issue that always comes up, the common denominator with these Seahawks is defense. Need I remind you of the 68-yard backbreaking play of Deshaun Jackson, where all the DBs, they looked lost. Jamal Adams actually had his back turned to the play. He definitely could have had an interception if he just looked over his shoulder. They are giving up a staggering 450 more yards in 4 consecutive games. Definitely not a winning strategy, let alone a playoff defense. And it's difficult. Is it an issue with the pass rushers not getting to the QB and giving, the receiving core too much time to break free from the defensive backs? Or is it just a secondary not getting their coverages correct? A lot of questions going to this week, going into the season now that Russell Wilson's out. Those are just my thoughts coming from a frustrated Seahawks fan.
Oh, man, let's change the subject quick before we start crying on the show. So, Brian, as you stated earlier, Coach Gruden got canned and is no longer the head coach for the Raiders. So do you think they'll be able to bounce back after this significant loss?
Honestly, Mike, I think so. They're due for a win. Their record really doesn't show how talented that they can be. The record shows worse than what they really are as a team. And I say that because I feel like Derek Carr as a QB with no bias is finally showing what he is capable of and what he has been showing for the past couple of years, but is now finally proving itself that that he isn't a fluke. And I think that he is one of definitely not one of the best QBs, but an above average QB that can bring a team like the Raiders with their current personnel to at the very least, to the playoffs. And I think that they are due for a win against a struggling team like the Broncos. Although they are a great defensive team with right now currently the second best defense in the league, with a great young secondary who can probably cause some issues for Carr and the receiving core, but I think that they're just going to will themselves to a win, simply because this will now be their first game without John Gruden as their head coach and with their new head coach. Yeah, there's going to be some issues and some changes in transitioning with a head coach, which is a huge change because, I mean, even changing a special teams coordinator, which is what they're doing, because that person is going to be their interim head coach now, is already a big change, let alone a big position like a head coach. So I think that they're going to eke out a win against the Denver Broncos, even on the away side.
Oh, staying loyal to your tribe. I love it. I love it, Brian. I like it a lot. Adian, so the Buffalo Bills, they looked absolutely amazing this past weekend against Kansas City Chiefs at Kansas City, and they officially became the favorites to win the Super Bowl based on the Las Vegas odds. I think Brian could probably confirm that for us later in the show. But before you go, take it away, Adian, I don't know if you guys saw when Josh Allen hurdled that one defender. I mean, that's probably the first time I've ever seen a quarterback do that, by the way. But Adian, do you think last Sunday's win was an overreaction?
I do not, Mike. Now, I suspect you're asking because maybe you believe he is, but come on. You got to get on the Bills Mafia bandwagon here. This is something else. I mean, beating the Chiefs in October is one thing. It would be much more satisfying if they can beat them in January and make their trip to the Super Bowl. And so, like, I think Bills fans have that in mind. But this has got to be a big booster for the confidence. Josh Allen at the quarterback is almost unstoppable. He can run. He ran for 50 yards against the Chiefs, or more than 50 yards, I should say. Threw over 300 yards. What else can you ask of the guy? The offense looks unstoppable. Their defense is a little bit better. They were able to contain Mahomes as well as anyone could. And they just look to be firing on all cylinders right now. I do like the Bills' chances as Super Bowl contenders. Now, do I think they're the favorite in the entire league? And that remains to be seen. The Cardinals are a great-looking team. The Chargers look good out in LA, and of course, the Super Bowl champs, the Bucs. Man, they always come hot in February. So we'll have to see if this truly makes them the number one team in all of the NFL. I think time will tell.
Absolutely. So going into Week 6, are there any games in particular you guys are looking forward to seeing? So, Adian, we'll start with you. Is there a game that stands out this coming week that you're looking forward to seeing?
I mean, how can it not be the Baltimore Ravens?
Oh,
they have drama every single week. It's like Monday Night Football. They have a huge comeback. If it's not that, then they have record-breaking field goals. And if it's not that, it's just Lamar Jackson being the most electrifying player in all of the NFL. He's must-watch television every single time.
Absolutely. How about you, Albert? Any games in particular you're looking forward to seeing?
Adian took mine. It was definitely going to be the Chargers and Ravens because, both matchups last week were insane, both coming from big comebacks on both sides. I'm going to throw a curveball here. I'm going to say the kickers versus footballs and uprights because last week was a horrible week for the kickers. So my favorite matchup this week is the kickers versus the uprights. Just throwing some stats out there. 13 missed extra point attempts. 26 missed kicks in total. The brutal one, of course, Mason Crosby and the Green Bay Packers going back and forth against the Bengals, missing kicks left and right to win the game until finally Mason Crosby was able to hit the game winner. And even in that Colts Ravens game, Rodrigo Blankenship missing that 47-yarder as well too. So that's my matchup for next week: kickers versus the uprights.
Man, those are two good ones. For me, I'm looking forward to seeing the Cardinals against the Browns. I just got word that the head coach for the Cardinals got COVID, so you won't be able to coach. And I think like their quarterback's coach and then a defensive tackle is out for Sunday. So that we'll see if their undefeated streak ends on Sunday. Brian, how about you? Any games you're looking forward to seeing on this coming weekend?
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you, Mike. Aside from the Chargers and the Ravens, I have to say the Cardinals-Browns is going to be a great matchup. Like you said, the head coach for the Cardinals is going to be out, but thankfully no one else got tested positives on the Cardinals. So now they have Hopkins active. Kyler Murray is still going to be playing. But the Browns are going to be they're going to be at home, but they have some injuries. They're going to be without the best running back duo in the league, and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So both of them are going to be injured. And I can see the Cardinals eking out yet another win, making them 6-0. So that's going to be a matchup to see.
Well, we'll see what happens. And like, as always, we will update you guys week by week as the NFL season continues. So we're going to do a little 180 here and enter the boxing ring, where Tyson Fury defeated Deontay Wilder via knockout in the 11th round this past weekend in Fury versus Wilder Part 3 in Vegas. Brian, were you shocked to see Fury win this matchup?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I was shocked, but I was a little bit surprised that Wilder didn't have a little bit more in him to fight off Fury, or at least strategize against his feints in this third fight, because this is his third matchup against Tyson Fury. So I would have hoped that he would have a little bit more in the tank towards the end of that fight. But I mean, he held his ground up until the very end was that a record number of knockdowns? I mean, I want to say, well, with all three fights alone, I think we had at least double digit knockdowns. Mm-hmm. And I mean, let's just say that it was one of the best fights in boxing history. And I'm just so glad. I'm so glad to see that. And I hope this is just a rejuvenation for the sport.
Absolutely. And so speaking of that, AD, and like what Brian was saying, many believe that this third fight lived up to the hype or even superseded their expectations. Do you agree with that?
Now, I can't name you a better trilogy in combat sports history than this. I mean, I wasn't there for Ali and Frazier, and so I'm being a little biased here. I do think this lived up to the hype in many ways. What were there, 5 knockdowns in total? Brian, you might have been exaggerating with the double digits, but it certainly felt like that. Every highlight you saw on social media was a knockout. I'm like, oh, he knocked him out again. Oh, it went back that way. And then it just kept going back and forth. But I do believe the edge that Tyson Fury had was just his weight. I mean, he's 40 pounds more than Deontay Wilder. He was leaning on him, using his weight the entire matchup. And in the 11th round, I guess Wilder couldn't keep his legs together, and he couldn't get back up. So that to me was the best boxing fight I've ever seen. I'm probably overblowing it and not collecting all of my history, all the history and all the past matchups I've seen. There's been a lot of great Pacquiao fights, a lot of great Floyd Mayweather fights, but in recent memory, this is the best I've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely, man. And yeah, just to kind of give my quick little take on it is just, I was pretty shocked to see Wilder come in with a brand new strategy. I mean, I think he was a lot more patient this time, but I mean, his cardiovascular was just, non-existent. And Fury he just showed totally and fully that he was just a more technically sound boxer. So Albert, who do you think Tyson Fury takes on next? Jake Paul?
No, hopefully not. Many anticipated a fight between Fury and fellow heavyweight title holder Alexander Usyk, who actually holds the WBA, IBF, and WBO World Heavyweight Championship. So a fight between the two would actually unify a undisputed World Heavyweight champ. But it looks like that's not going to happen, because a rematch between Anthony Joshua and Usyk will probably most likely be coming first. So therefore, a title unification would probably come sometime next year. Hopefully, no more Jake Paul fights. If anything, it's been rumored a fight with Tommy Fury, who is actually Tyson Fury's half-brother. This will actually be a real test for Jake Paul, because Tyson Fury is actually a legitimate boxer versus the other guys that he's been facing in this past 3 fights.
Yeah, man. Well, it's I think this fight definitely put the sport back on the map, and I'm really excited to see what lies ahead. But hey, awesome takes, everybody. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be discussing both Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving's ordeals. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Ito ay isang kwento ng isang tao hanggang ngayon'y baliw na baliw sa'yo. Di na siya natuto kahit ni...
Hello guys, I am Lucky Anthony Solueta. Please catch me on Letters and Music, on air and online, this coming Sunday, October 24th, 1 to 2 p.m. only here in Net 25. Enjoy!
Ngayong may pandemya, marami ang walang trabaho at mataas ang presyo ng bilihin. Isa sa nakikitang solusyon para makaiwas sa pagkagutom ay ang pagtatanim. May ilan, problemado sa espasyo dahil maliit ang kanilang lugar. Pero may sagot riyan para makapagtanim, ang hydroponics. Sa hydroponics, hindi ginagamitan ng lupa ang pinagtataniman, kundi tubig at nutrient solution lamang. Sa hydroponics, makakapagtanim ka ng gulay at kahit anong halaman. Masusolusyonan ang problema sa kagutuman at matutugunan ang seguridad sa pagkain.
Kumanta, sumaya tayong lahat. Saya-saya.
Welcome back, everybody. This is EBC Sports International. I'm Michael Hudson coming at you from Seattle, Washington. So according to a recent statement from Brooklyn Nets GM Sean Marks, because Kyrie Irving has not yet gotten the mandated vaccine for COVID-19, he will not be able to participate in any practices or games during this NBA season. Just hours away, Ben Simmons, who has been having a back and forth with the 76ers organization, has reported back to camp to rejoin his team. So we have some pretty deep topics, everybody, and but we'll tread lightly. So Adian, Kyrie's situation, do you think something else is going on behind closed doors that we don't know about?
And I mean, that's so hard to say, Mike. I think the most that we've got from Kyrie and his camp is that his reported reason for not taking the vaccine is that he doesn't feel like the vaccine is what should be responsible for people losing their jobs, and he feels like their decision to not take that vaccine is that reason, and so he doesn't want to comply with. He wants to be a voice of reason, and like Brian said, he wants to be seen as somebody standing up for these people who are losing their jobs. And I guess at face value, it seems like an honorable thing to do, but this is the NBA, man. This is $1 billion business. You're playing for millions of dollars. People are betting on these games. They put their livelihood into it. This is playing with a lot of different things. That's not just that doesn't just have to do with Kyrie Irving's personal decision. It affects so much more. Now, what do the Nets do? Do they consider trading him? Do they consider just playing the whole season without ever wondering if he's going to get the vaccine or not? Do they allow this to be an ongoing issue throughout the entire season? All of these questions remain to be answered, and I think it's an interesting thing, an interesting wrench to throw into the middle of the Brooklyn Nets season, who, let's be honest, they want to be championship contenders. Do I think they could still win without Kyrie, though? It's very possible, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think so. I mean, the Nets are still pretty stagnant. I think at this point they're ready to move on, obviously, and they're starting to focus on their path to winning the championship. But I mean, it's a sticky situation. I mean, looking at Kyrie's past, I mean, this guy is definitely from another planet. I mean, he literally thinks our planet is flat. But you know, I mean, more power to him for standing his ground. But at the end of the day, he has to realize that he has a contract and he has an obligation to perform. And if he doesn't, then you got to kick rocks. But Albert, you know, going to Ben Simmons this time, you know, he's returning is a positive sign for Philly for now. But you know, given after all that's happened, after all the back and forth, after all the negative things in the media, how awkward on a scale of 1 to 10 is it going to be when he walks into that locker room?
I say like a 10 times 10 or like something like that. It's going to be unbelievably awkward. Take into the account like the front office, the coaching staff, all the players plan for this season without Ben Simmons, you know, their schemes, how they're going to run their offense, you know, the way the team is constructed. And then all of a sudden your quote unquote second best player comes back and now you have to sort of integrate him back into the lineup. It's going to be tough, especially for a central piece like Joel Embiid, because now all of a sudden you have to try to incorporate him. What do you do? Does he actually even see the floor? Has he even changed as a player? It'll be funny. If he does come into a game, I think the first thing that Ben Simmons should do is just jack up a three, regardless of where he is. Whether it hit the rim or not, we'll never know. But it's similar to, you know, situations with Jimmy Butler, AD, and James Harden, where they have held out for trades. But when they came back, you know, the fans didn't know whether to boo or to cheer. I think if and when Ben Simmons does get traded, the Philly fans are definitely gonna boo. I don't even know if there are any Ben Simmons jerseys left in Philadelphia, given the fact that a lot of them, they have been burned or thrown into the garbage already. But I think this is a move that will at least try to get Ben Simmons to increase his trade value. And he'll definitely most likely be traded later on in the season. I think the difficulty is just the weight of his contract, which is 4 more years and $147 million left on the table.
Gotcha. And Brian, you know, staying on with Ben Simmons, you know, does Philly, considering that he stays, let's just say, for example, he stays for the entire season, does Philly have the chance to win the championship?
So let's put it this way. There are so many other teams who have done this before where they have disgruntled stars just like Ben Simmons. So let's go all the way back to the Toronto Raptors with Vince Carter. So Vince Carter was that same disgruntled player just like Ben Simmons, not to the same extent, but he wanted out. But he ended up staying for the beginning of the regular season, and he just played like trash. And I feel like I'm afraid that Ben Simmons is going to do the same thing. He's just going to be just not there, just unmotivated. He's just going to shoot a bunch of threes. I mean, I agree with Albert. I just want to see what happens opening night in a home game in that Philly crowd, and what kind of energy they're going to bring when they see Ben Simmons come up with that jersey. And I don't know whether or not they're going to cheer or boo. I'm leaning towards booing, but I mean, there's just no way that this team is going to be achieving as much as they did from last season, because I feel like last season was their best chance of them winning it all, and they just couldn't get there. And I think it was a lot of it, yes, is because of Ben Simmons and his lack of skill outside of his other amazing abilities. But I mean, it's not going to be the same. It's the same team, but now you have someone who just doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an awkward situation. So we'll see what happens, because this week, NBA opening night, baby. So with that being said, we can't close out our show without our question of the week. So former NBA guard J.R. Smith played in a college golf tournament this past week and was literally stung by hornets after stepping on the hornet's nest, which is pretty embarrassing. So speaking of embarrassing moments, I wanted to ask all of you to share with us your most embarrassing sports moment. So I'll go first. I was a junior in high school playing basketball. I was going up for a layup, and this dude just came out of nowhere and blocked it so hard, and it flew into the fourth row. And I remember seeing my girlfriend at the time right there seeing it all, and I was just, man, I got subbed out right away, and it was so embarrassing. So, but how about you guys? Albert, how about you, man?
Well, mine happened during gym class. I think the curriculum at the time was probably baseball. And we all know playing in the outfield, especially outside during gym, you lose the ball in the sun. So I was tracking a ball, lost it, deflected off my glove and actually hit my nose. And I had to step out because I had a bloody nose. So definitely embarrassing. You know what? We've all been there in terms of embarrassing stories in sports. So.
Oh man, I would have loved to see that. That would have been pretty cool. How about you, Adian?
Mine was a whole misunderstanding of the rules. We were playing basketball, and I didn't know in FIBA rules that if any player can call a timeout. So I dove for a loose ball. I got it, and I'm like, timeout. And the ref was like, you don't have timeouts. And it was a crucial play. We lost the ball because I turned it over, and it was dumb on my part.
Man, those FIBA rules, man, they get me all the time. It's just like, dude, why don't you just make universal rules for just every?
Why can't the NBA and FIBA rules be the same?
Exactly. I don't get it. I don't understand. How about you, Brian? Embarrassing moment.
Yeah, same thing, Mike. It was basketball, and I was going to make the most easiest layup in the world, uncontested. I go up there, I completely miss it. It doesn't even hit the backboard. I'm like, oh man, it's a good thing this game doesn't matter too much, because that was the most embarrassing moment.
Dude, that is so. That's the worst. That's the worst one. Like,
especially if no one's there.
Oh man, and it's like all quiet too. It's all quiet, and you're just like, and you miss it.
You just blow a flat tire, and everyone sees it.
Oh god.
Yep.
Well, hey, thanks for being brave and share with me with your embarrassing moments, guys. But that's it for today's episode. On behalf of everyone on our panel, thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to tune in again next week. Make sure to visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com, as well as net25.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at EagleNewsPH to join the conversation. For EBC Sports International, I'm Michael Hudson. We live in interesting times.
The Bundesliga will start up again. It would be great if we had full stands and to sing our battle songs. Oh, and more goals wouldn't hurt either. A surprise would be great too. The Bundesliga highlights. Kickoff